Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am back with another emergency card video. If you're new to my channel, an emergency card is one where we make the cards ahead of time, but we leave the sentiments off. That way, when an occasion arises, we can choose the card that best fits the recipient and the interchangeable sentiments that best fit the occasion. To help you with this, I release free printable kits on the first and third Friday of every month. But this is a special edition. Today, we're going to use the sentiments from the cute holiday kit that came out last week, and I will link to that original video below. But we are also remixing a card sketch from an old kit that came out almost a year and a half ago. So let's go ahead and take a look. For today's cards, we're using sentiments from the cute holiday kit that came out last Friday, and it is huge. You can see there's just a ton of pages here. So we have 1 3/4 inch circle sentiments on page 1. On page 2, I removed that circle in case you want to use a circle in a different size or a different shape altogether. Then we have rectangle sentiments that you can cut out using the tick marks if you don't have any punches or dies. Those same sentiments are available as strip sentiments. We have 4 fonts. We have some whimsical fonts first, and then we have a scripty font and a classic serif font. Then we have our card sketch, and we made a couple cards using this sketch last week. This kit is linked in the description box below the video, and it includes everything that I have shown you so far. All I ask is that if you're going to use my downloads, please subscribe to my channel. And if you have a friend who could use some free crafty supplies, go ahead and send them the link to the video as well. Next to that download, there is also a link to my Patreon. There is a free membership option, and if you download this from Patreon, you can also get all of those sentiments in 3-inch circle sentiments that fit perfectly on that sketch. If you are a paid member at any tier, and paid membership starts at $2, you could, for a limited time, have downloaded the PDF that has these adorable winter critters in it. If you missed that, check your email. If you had your notifications on, it would have sent you that post, and the link is in there, okay? So definitely try to keep your notifications on in case you miss one of these limited time opportunities. Some of the paid tiers also have additional fonts and font sizes, white text on black. These are linked in the searchable databases for your tiers. So when you go to Patreon, click on collections and then look for your tier, and they'll be in there. For today's card, we're going to use a sketch from an old kit. This is kit 12, and it has some different things in it. So we start with our circle sentiments and then the same sentiments without the circle. But I wasn't doing rectangle sentiments yet. So this was something new I was trying. These are 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 inches, and there are little tick marks to help you cut them out. So this version has the sentiments with some backgrounds, and then there's a page that has them without the backgrounds. This kit also has our initial sketch, but then we had 2 bonus sketches, and we're going to use this one right here today. I will link to the videos that have this kit, and you can download it from there, or if you're a paid member of Patreon at the supporter level or higher, it is also linked in your searchable database. I wanted this to be extra fun, so I created some new content to go with this kit in that specialty size, the 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So if you download it from Patreon instead of going back to the old videos, you can download this page for free, and it has these sketchy trees and some fun backgrounds. This kit will be in a post that I will pin to the top of our Patreon until next Friday when a new kit comes out. It will also have details about everything else I'm about to show you. Okay, so this is available to all free Patreon members, and that will not change. This is not a limited time page. If you're a paid member at any tier, I have even more content for you. So the next 2 pages are available to all membership levels until Sunday, October 13th. And here we have 4 Christmassy backgrounds in that same fun size. And then on the next page, we have those same sketchy trees, but I removed the background so you can do a lot of fun things with them. On this card, I used this tree and I foiled it in a couple different colors. So we have some holographic, some glittering green, and then like a tree bark foil. I used a little watercolor, some alcohol markers. I'm not making this card in today's video, but if you're interested, leave me a comment. I do have footage for it. If you're a Sassy supporter, so the $5 membership level or higher, those 2 pages are available just in your regular kit. So you'll find that in collections under the resources for your membership level. Members at the Saskatoon level or higher have these colored trees with beautiful Christmassy backgrounds. And my champions, I have not forgotten about you. You have these all as resizable images and sentiments, and then there's an extra packet of 9 6x6 downloadable backgrounds and images that are a nice high resolution format for you to play with. Let's make some cards. So for this first one, I'm going to use one of those tree images. This one is available to the Saskatoon champion levels, but you could use any of the trees, the ones that are sketchy with the backgrounds, that are just the sketches, however you want to do it. You could even use one of the sentiments from the original kit. I just used the tick marks to cut that down to 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. Then I have an A2 panel, and I'm running this through the Flurry of Snowflakes 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders. It gives this really great impression. It's super quick and easy, and I'm just going to go over the raised areas with my Delicata white shimmer ink. This has really high raised areas, so I didn't even have to worry about getting that ink on the lower areas of my background. I'm going to glue this down onto an A2 card base, and I'm using lots of glue because there's such a deep emboss on this. I want to make sure it's going to make really good contact with that card base. I like to flip it over if it's got a lot of texture on it, just because I feel like I can press down a little bit better. So here is our tree, but you could do anything in here that is that 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. I am just following this sketch, and I glued that onto a 3 by 4 inch panel of navy cardstock. Then I have some silver glitter strips that I cut using my scrapbook.com slim strips. They're like Slimline strip dies that come in a bunch of different sizes. So the sketch even says these are 3/16 of an inch. I would never cut that on my own. I'm not nuts. So use like an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch if you just want to cut those with your trimmer. I like to use my dies if I have some specialty cardstock left over that's a little too small to fit comfortably in my trimmer. And then I'm just lining those up on a 1-inch strip of some dark purple cardstock. To get my layout, I actually put my circle sentiment mat, the 2-inch circle on the left, and then the strip through it just as a placeholder so that I don't accidentally put this tree panel too far to the left. I want to make sure everything has nice room. Then I'm actually going to leave that circle there as long as possible. I'm adding glue onto my strips of cardstock here, and I'm going to just lay those kind of centered in that empty space. It is longer than I needed because all of my strips were longer. I'm working from scraps here, and I love that. You could use this kit 12 to make a ton of really quick and easy holiday cards. I honestly wasn't planning on adding additional downloads for today, but you guys, I have already hit 100 paid Patreon members, and I am so grateful. So I wanted to give you something extra special. This is the cute holiday kit, and I have just cut out the sentiment that says Happy Holidays from the Mostly Nice list. I should bulk print that one. That's appropriate for my entire family. And that is card number 1 complete. For card number 2, I'm starting with the stitched Starfilled background. It's a Spellbinders die. Friends, I ran this through my machine 3 times because I did not want to have to poke out all of those teeny tiny little holes. I think I had to poke out 2 by the time I was done. I just taped it to the plate to make sure that it's not going to shift as I'm running it through multiple times. I don't stitch. I don't stitch on cards. I don't stitch with a sewing machine. I'm bad at it. So you better believe we're not stitching this one, but I love what peeks through these holes. They are just big enough that I have some black glitter cardstock. It's from Michael's. It is cheap stuff. I am not using up my really good glitter here. And I am going to lay this panel on top of that. On camera, it's hard to see, but in person, you get these little flashes of sparkle in there that are amazing. Instead of plain rectangles, I'm using the nested postage labels and tags. So I have a postage label and then a piece that goes right inside of that. And then this is Emergency Card Essentials die set number 1 that I designed for Trinity Stamps. And I cut some 1/4 inch strips that are meant to be strip sentiment dies, but I was using it to use up scraps of that black specialty glitter cardstock that I couldn't fit in my trimmer. So I am just gluing together my postage labels, and then I will add my glitter strips onto my strip of silver cardstock. It's a little thicker than the original sketch. We've just changed the proportions a little. That black postage label is 4 inches by 2.5 inches instead of 3 inches. And so I had some extra space to fill. So the silver matte cardstock that I'm adding those strips onto is 1.25 inches. It just keeps the proportion of everything really nice. My Trinity strip dies are exactly 4.25 inches. So I left the silver cardstock a little bit long, and I tried to butt the black cardstock up against just one edge, and then I'll trim off the excess later. I have a tendency to cut my card panels a little bit big, and I wanted to make sure everything was going to fit nicely. I'm using my tweezers to kind of audition where I want our focal images to go, and in the end I settled for here. It's not even centered necessarily, but it's going to work out nicely and leave me plenty of room for my sentiment on the left. For our focal images, these are the Lisa Horton Festive Ornament dies that came out from Spellbinders last month, I want to say. So Lisa Horton is the one who made the interference inks that are like selling out everywhere. They're a pigment ink that have some shimmer in them. Well, her die collection that she released is so stinking cute, you guys. You're going to see pieces of it coming up in videos from me because I really love this one. I am just decorating 2 of the ornaments very simply. There is a circle die, and then I've used some black cardstock and some glitter cardstock. There are little toppers to put on them, and then even this little chain so they can hang down. The details are fantastic. And this is a pretty small die set. I love when you can get something really cute and has a lot of versatility, and the price point isn't too bad. So I am trimming these off at the top. This might have been easier if I had decorated the white panel before I added it onto the postage, but I didn't think about it at the time. So instead, I'll just trim off little slivers until everything feels right. I'm gluing my chain onto the front of that silver topper, but you could put it behind, right? You could use a string instead. There's lots of ways to do this. I thought about making it so that these could swing a little bit, but that felt awfully complicated for a video where I knew I was making 4 or 5 cards. On this next one, I'm paying particular attention as I lay down my ornaments to where my sentiment's going to be. I want to create a visual triangle. And so the first layout that I had really fought against that principle. So I wanted my sentiment sort of on the bottom left, which means that this on the far right needs to be sort of in the middle. And that's how I figured out how high I wanted them to be. I have a little bit of 1mm thin foam tape. This comes on a roll from scrapbook.com. It's my favorite because it's not thick enough to change the postage. And I've used some black glossy cardstock. I have some from Trinity and some from Simon Says Stamp. I like both of them. My sentiments I printed onto some white shimmer cardstock, and I'm going to punch out "'Tis the Season." There is a die in my Emergency Card Essentials #1 that will cut that out for you, but the punch is faster. So you know me, I'm going with whatever is easiest. For card number 3, we're going to switch it up. We're going to use the sketch as a suggestion. This is the small die of the month from Spellbinders, and this is for the month of October. So this is still the current small die, which means that it is at a great bargain. There is this polar bear, and we have our lights. There's a little penguin. I have another video that came out earlier in the week using this die set. I wasn't planning on using it in the other video, but yeah, I couldn't help myself. I had already cut this out of pink cardstock when I decided I wanted some pattern on his sweater. So I'm using my Ohuhu white acrylic marker. It has a round bullet tip, which is how I made my big circles. And then I'm filling in with some tiny little dots. The other tip is like almost like a pen in terms of the fine point. And so it was really quick and easy to fill that in. It took maybe a minute to dry. I'm going to put my bear together. He comes together pretty quickly. There are little debossed details all over to let you know where the layering pieces go. I've cut the bear himself out of some white cardstock, and then I'm using sea salt from Tailored Expressions. It is a very, very pale gray and slightly more towards a cool gray. I also have fog cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and it's more of a warm gray. So I liked this one here because I'm using so many cool tones in the card. There's also this little like bar of black cardstock to do his eyes. It makes it so quick. It's on the same die as his nose. The other piece I love about that is it means I'm not going to lose that nose die cut. So really simple. I'll just glue the sweater onto his head and he is good to go. These ornament strands, they're a little fiddly, I'm not gonna lie, but they're so cute. And I cut out a whole bunch. So there's a small strand and a big strand, and there are different size bulbs on each. So worth noting as you're cutting things out, though I suppose you could put the bigger bulbs on either one and then it just wouldn't matter. But I just kept running it through with different colors of cardstock while I was cutting everything else for the cards I've made in the last 2 weeks. When I have pieces that are really small like this, I like to kind of lay out the die cuts ahead of time. I didn't do that on the first strand. I was kicking myself, but here you can see I have the colors of bulbs that I want right next to them. And then I have a pickup stick from Trinity Stamps. This is the first one I ever bought. I've gotten others since then and they're just not as good. I just pick it up with my wax tool and then I set it right down in that glue and I'm done. It was pretty quick. When I go to put my card together, this is going to look really familiar, but again, I kind of changed the sizes on some things. The bear is about 3 inches wide, so the same width as our rectangle on the sketch, a little shorter, but I'm not going to use a circle sentiment. I wanted to have a tag that would kind of nestle right on in there. So my purple strip is 1.5 inches, but I'm still using those same really small 3/16 inch strips. So I'm going to add 3 of them instead of just 2. One of them had some double-sided adhesive tape on the back. I used to do that a lot. I have a big roll of double-sided adhesive from scrapbook.com. I don't like to use that adhesive for interactive anything. It's just not sticky enough, but for something like this, it makes it really quick and simple to put these strips down. For our background, I'm going to do some Better Press. This is the Candy Cane Stripe Better Press plate. If you don't have a Better Press, you can hot foil this. And I'm going to use some Brilliance Silver Ink. It's from Sukaneko. I also have the Delicata Silver. I like them equally, but the Delicata needed to be re-inked. I will say the Delicata is often easier to find in stock. So I already have my blue cardstock taped to the clear plate, and then I've inked it all over, and I will run that through off camera. You guys, I am loving this with any kind of pigment ink or metallic ink, though you can use dye ink. It works pretty well too. If you're like, Sarah, I don't hot foil, I don't Better Press, there is a Peppermint Stripe 2D embossing folder from Spellbinders that is almost identical. If you look at the bonus card where I was like, let me know if you want to see a video for this card, I used the embossing folder for that one and it looks just like this one. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of lay my pieces down, make sure everything's going to fit well. And I'm going to glue this larger strand onto my bear before I add the bear onto the card because I want that little top piece to tuck right behind him. I almost did the same thing with the smaller piece of the lights, but honestly, it was going to get pretty fiddly. So we're going to go ahead and just add the bear straight onto the card and then we'll worry about the rest of the lights. In this set, there is a little penguin and then there's a star. And so you can put like the lights, almost like the polar bear is the tree. And then the star goes like right on the top of his head. And the little penguin is sitting there holding onto the star. I thought about making this a light up card. Again, though, 4 or 5 cards in a video. And I was like, there's not time. But let me know if that's something you want to see. I'm gluing down my top strand of lights and now I can work on this strip and then we can move on to our sentiment because I have something really exciting to show you for the sentiment. I did use the grid on my mat to try to make sure that everything was straight, but you guys, I don't worry that much about it most of the time. I think I was just crafting past my bedtime. So here are some of those cute holiday sentiments. I love this. Have a very Merry Christmas. These are the Lisa Horton Essential Tag dies. And look at this. There's a tag that cuts out nearly the same size that we would have cut out if we had just used our trimmer. In fact, there will be, you can see the tiniest little bit of it left over. It's so perfect. Not every sentiment will cut out with these tags because some of them really do stretch the entire way, but this one did, and I was so excited. I'm going to use my removable adhesive to go ahead and add that onto my background in case I decide later I need a different sentiment. I don't want to have to dig out my tag dies if I'm in a hurry. For our next card, I have been meaning to use this embossing folder for the longest time. This is the Holiday Lights 3D embossing folder, and I've cut out a panel that is 5 by 7. And then there's stencils that go with it. So I will say, when you emboss, your paper shrinks up a little bit. And so I was hoping this was going to be like a really easy stenciling, but I did have to shift my stencil here and there just to make sure everything was lining up because this panel is so big. If I was stenciling over an A2 panel, I wouldn't have had to move it at all. But I am just using some of that Brilliance Silver Ink for this first layer. It is all of the bases of those lights. There isn't a stencil for the actual strands, like there's just not a good way to do that, but you certainly could go over them with an Ohuhu acrylic marker or any metallic pen that you like and fill those in as well. For the second stencil, I am using some Spun Sugar Distress Oxide, and I thought at first I was going to use 3 colors and sort of pick and choose which lights to fill in. But this was so much faster, and honestly, I think they've done a great job with the 3 layers. I love how this turns out. I have some shaded lilac on this final layer, and that's my panel. That's going to be the background of our card. So I'm adding this onto a 5 by 7 card base. So it started out as 10 inches by 7 inches. I scored it at 5, and then I'm going to lay this right down on top. I have lots of glue. It's a thin layer. I don't want anything warping, but it's a big embossed panel, and I want to make sure it's going to stay on there really well. This is from the large die of the month for Spellbinders, also an October club. It's still the current club, and it is so stinking cute. I have used this in several videos, some of which haven't even come out yet, but I haven't shown you guys how to put the critters together yet. You may have seen this, I mean, it's been all over YouTube. This is the one where it's making slippers, but we're not gonna make slippers. I just want these little holiday icons. They come together really quickly. I'm using the rabbit and the reindeer on our card today, but you could use just one on an A2 card. In the description box below, you will find links to the original videos for this card sketch, and I use a lot of dies in similar sizes, and I decorate the strip that's on our card instead of a focal panel. I also want to let you know that in that description box you will find links to the emergency card kit playlist that has all of the free printable videos, and then there's also a playlist specifically for holiday kits. So if you're like, I am looking for more holiday sentiments, maybe the cute holiday one isn't your favorite, you can check there. Our next emergency kit that comes out on the 3rd Friday in October will be our elegant holiday kit, and then there will be some religious holiday sentiments in there as well. Probably split those onto separate pages. But I had a poll going in Patreon if you're interested in voting on upcoming kits. That's where it happens. It was tied neck and neck with Thinking of You, and holiday is a little more time sensitive. So we'll do that one first, and then Thinking of You coming up probably shortly after that. This reindeer, you guys, I think it's the antlers that gets me. I wasn't sure about the shine mark in his nose, if that should be white or light red, but then it looks pink. It just gets weird. So I did it in white. That's how it is on the packaging. I'm super pleased with it. Our Santa is the last one that we're putting together today, but in my video that came out on the 6th, which is when the kits release, there is one other option for those slippers, and it makes these adorable monster slippers. So if you want to see that one put together, you can check out that video as well. I'll link it below. For Santa, I have some white glitter cardstock that I'm using for the trim of his hat and the white poofy ball. I think in the pictures on the packaging, his nose is red, and I didn't want that. So I just did the same color as his face. And that gives me 4 more critters to use on cards. This is another of the Lisa Horton holiday dies. It's called the Nested Tree Frame. We're not using the tree, but we're going to use the frame. And then there's a set of better press plates that goes beautifully with it, right? These are meant to fit those frames. So this is the largest of the stitch rectangles. It's the exact same size as the plate. So I'm just going to line it up right over the top of that better press plate, and I'm using some mint tape on the back. This is white shimmer cardstock. It's only 65 pound. This is the only tape I have found that doesn't automatically tear my paper when I run it through this machine. I am using the snowflake background, but there are other options too. These are the holiday background press plates. There's also this wonderful dot pattern and then 2 different kinds of stars. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through my machine, and it's really subtle, right? White shimmer, silver ink. I love that. You could use pattern paper instead, but I have this collection and I have been dying to use it. It's so good. There's another like press plate die situation that cuts out tiny little sentiments that are smaller than emergency sentiments but have that same feel. They're so fantastic. Since it's a 5x7 card, everything has to scale up a little bit. So the purple panel that has the little dots cut out of it, that's about 3 5/8 by 4.5. Then this is a 2-inch strip of pink cardstock, and I'm adding strips of glitter cardstock that are 3/8 of an inch. I used my die that came in Emergency Card Essentials #1. I intended this to be a mat for our sentiments, right? To give us that really wonderful layer around the outside of our 1/4-inch strip sentiments. But if I have it on my desk, and you better believe it has not left my desk since I got it, I'm going to use it for everything. But you could cut those by hand, right? The whole goal here is just to size everything up a little bit to make it really fill a 5x7 card. I'm laying these on there with just some wet glue because we have a lot of texture in the background. Sometimes I will add thin foam. I love the 1mm foam from scrapbook.com, but we're going to do something special with our little critters. And I didn't want to end up with problems there. So I have added a scallop rectangle from that same Emergency Card Essentials die set on there. It is about 2.5 by 1.5 inches, and I did put the 1mm thin foam on there. But then on our critters, we're going to add some action wobblers. So you can get these at Trinity Stamps now. You can get them lots of places, but it's hard to find them anymore when you aren't having to buy like a bulk pack of 50 or 100. So I like that Trinity is offering that. There are 2 sides to our little plastic spring. That's what these are, little springs. And one side is harder. And I like to attach that side to my die cut because the other side is clear. And if someone's looking at the card at an angle, I want that to be as invisible as possible. They have adhesive on them. They go on there really easily. We're going to cut out one of our rectangle sentiments here. So I am just connecting the tick marks top to bottom on the blade of my trimmer, but I'm not going all the way through. I'm leaving that header connected. Then I will rotate, and I will still have the tick marks on the side to get these cut out perfectly into 2.25 by 1.25 inch sentiments. In that Emergency Card Essentials die set, there is a die that will cut them out in that size if this is something that you struggle with. But I always wanted to make sure there was a set of sentiments available in these free kits that doesn't require any specialty dies or supplies. I'm going to add that on there with a little bit of removable adhesive, and that will finish up card #4. It's so cute. All right, my friends, those are our 4 card projects for today. I would love to know which of these is your favorite. I am completely torn. I thought it was going to be this bear with his lights, and he's pretty good. But even this one that was our simplest card, I just love. This tree, remember, is available to Saskatier Patreon members and higher, but there are lots of free ways to get downloads today. If you're interested in the free sentiments, they're linked in the description box below the video. So click more or show more, and that will unpack that description box. You'll find all of my supplies and a download for these sentiments. Right next to that are links to Patreon. There's an upgraded version of this kit with 3-inch circle sentiments that is available to all members of my Patreon, free members too. Free members can also download an upgraded version of kit number 12, our Rewind kit, that has our sketchy trees on backgrounds. And for a limited time until Sunday, October 13th, all paid members can download the version that also has the sketchy trees that are separate from the backgrounds. So that's how I made this one that I foiled that I showed you earlier. Remember, if you're interested in seeing the video for that, let me know. I can't wait for you guys to try those downloads. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.